They like, no, that's 2 more weight classes. Like once he gets touched by Canelo, it's gonna be different.
I am concerned about him absorbing a Canelo punch, especially through the course of 12 rounds. We tried to do that with Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, and we see how that panned out. You know what I mean? So best we don't.
People who work in boxing just told Terence Crawford not to fight Canelo Alvarez. Not many people thought Terence Crawford's first fight as a junior middleweight would be so exciting, but Israel Madrimov of Uzbekistan pushed Bud to his limits. Now people like Teofimo Lopez agree with the idea that Crawford doesn't have a good chance against Canelo Alvarez. Lopez says that Bud would be smart to stay out of a fight with the Mexican giant. The age is catching up to Crawford. I would love to get Crawford now before it catches up to him later on. All I can say now is let's see what he does next. I don't think he should fight Canelo. I think he should fight the guy that is coming up next, Teofimo. Among the voices decrying the perceived injustice in the Israel Madrimov vs. Terence Crawford bout, Eddie Hearn stood out the most as Madrimov's promoter. Hearn was especially incensed by Judge Fernando Vel's scorecard, which awarded Crawford a 6-112 victory. In the aftermath of the bout, the Matchroom boxing chairman didn't hold back, criticizing the judge's scorecards as a complete waste. Hearn bluntly stated that, in his view, but simply didn't deliver what was needed to secure the victory. Hearn said, "It's a waste of time. It's not a 116-112 fight. Madrimov was in the fight. He was coming into the fight as a champion, but because he is fighting Terence Crawford, he doesn't get a shake. All of the effective punches were coming from Israel Madrimov. It was a super close fight. I believe when you come into that ring as a champion, that winner needs to lose his belt. That wasn't done by Terence Crawford. Shawn Porter is in charge." The narrative towards Crawford's possible legacy-defining bout with Canelo Alvarez, as Crawford tries to secure another belt in his 4th weight division, is that his true ambition is to ascend yet another weight class. The question is why this move brings the two groups closer together. Undisputed champion nearer to the realm ruled by Canelo Alvarez after dismantling Errol Spence Jr. last year, Crawford has had a singular focus to conclude his career with a triumphant bout against Canelo. The reigning unified super middleweight champion, although Canelo has largely ignored the call-out, fans are buzzing with speculation. However, Porter, who understands Crawford's capabilities intimately, has expressed his concern predicting this fight is no easy task, especially considering Crawford's commanding victory over a top-tier boxer like Errol Spence Jr. Nevertheless, in a conversation with Marcos Villegas from Fight Hub TV, Porter discussed the challenges Crawford faces as he moves up to weight classes and the significant power disparity between fighters in these different divisions. There is a chance that he could take a Canelo punch, especially after 12 rounds. Porter confessed Porter offered a compelling analysis, predicting that Canelo would follow a familiar pattern and tire. As the fight progressed, this led Porter to anticipate that Canelo would come out aggressively, aiming to overwhelm Crawford early on. He believed Canelo would try to bang on Crawford and break him down before reaching the later rounds, where Crawford's superior stamina would give him the edge. However, Shawn Porter expressed uncertainty about predicting the winner of a fight between Crawford and Canelo, noting that many components make a champion and suggesting that discussing all the attributes Terence Crawford possesses could easily take an hour. Porter might not be sure, but could pull off the win. But Crawford's other past opponent doubts.
You know this about Canelo, he's going to slow down, so I think if anything, Canelo would try to start fast and bang on him and break him down before he gets later, and he still got that kind of steam. But, there's so many components that make a champion. There's so many components that make a great, a legend. And there's components that not too many people are privy to knowing and understanding. And for me to explain it is it will probably kind of go over your head. And I don't mean that you guys aren't intelligent and can't receive what I'm saying, but it's just so much to go into. It's a conversation that lasts an hour easily when we talk about all of the components that Terence Crawford has, all of the components that Canelo have, and how we find how they even out and who trumps one another.
Since his bout with Crawford last year, the truth has been absent from the ring for over a year, although talks of a possible match with Sebastian Fundora later this year are in the air. Spence had the chance to trigger his rematch clause with Crawford but chose against it. Whether it's due to a need for more preparation or a dwindling sense of hope, it's clear that Spence Jr. fully understands the immense challenge that Terence Crawford presents, according to a tweet from TalkSport editor Michael Benson. The Truth spoke on a possible fight between Crawford and Canelo. He said if Crawford wants to push himself to be great, let him try to be great, I'm with it. As for who he thinks will win, Spence's words exuded confidence in his old opponent. I be going for Bud. I don't know if he'll win or lose, but if anybody can pull it off, he can pull it off, Spence added. But Terence Crawford continues to entertain the idea of a high-profile showdown with boxing sensation Canelo Alvarez, especially after his recent win over Israel Madrimov. Crawford, making his debut in the 154-pound division, battled the WBA champion through a grueling 12-round fight after winning by unanimous decision. But he emerged as the 4-division world champion, with Madrimov putting up the hardest fight the Nebraska native had seen in a long time. Though the newly crowned WBA super welterweight champion is keen to plan a showdown with Alvarez, the undisputed 168 title holder Eddie Hearn has dismissed the matchup as unimportant. Hearn thinks Crawford should focus on fighting at his current weight of 154-pound instead. Following Mob's first career loss, the head of Matchroom Boxing was interviewed by the Stomping Ground. He said, "He can't fight at 168. Listen, the trouble he had against Madrimov wasn't necessarily because of the size. It was a little bit because of that, but it was also because of the movement. He can't fight at 168. Canelo would mow through him. He should try and fight the big names at 154. On August 3rd, Terence Crawford bolstered his flawless professional record to 41-0 with a decisive victory over Israel Madrimov for the WBA super welterweight title, marking the Uzbekistani fighter's inaugural loss in his career. Prior to the fight, Turki Alalshik, the promoter of the Madrimov-Crawford card, stated that he would want to see Canelo Alvarez and Bud face off in late 2024 or early 2025, after his decision victory over Madrimov. The 4-division world champion was joined in the ring by Matchroom Boxing. He discussed his opponent's performance, saying, "He had fast feet, good rhythm upstairs, and he was strong. He was very disciplined. He wasn't coming and throwing wild shots like I expected him to do. He fought a good fight." When asked about a potential clash with Alvarez, he said, "You know what I say, if the money's right, we've got a fight, but at the same time, he's got a fight that he's focused on." The potential showdown between Terence Crawford and Saul Alvarez remains a tantalizing prospect, but Canelo Alvarez must first honor his bout with Edgar Berlanga on September 14th. Following that, a matchup that would excite boxing enthusiasts could be on the horizon, though challenges might arise due to the weight disparity between the fighters. Israel Madrimov's latest reflections stem from his unanimous decision loss to Crawford this Saturday, experiencing Crawford's prowess up close. Madrimov now regards him as the finest pound-for-pound fighter globally. When asked about a potential matchup with Canelo, Madrimov expressed uncertainty, noting that his chances would hinge on the agreed-upon weight class. "I don't know. It depends on what weight they fight at, but if they fight in Canelo's current weight class, then I think it will be very difficult for Crawford because he's huge." Madrimov noticed that although he acknowledged that Crawford has punch and talent, he added, "There's no doubt he has power. There's no doubt he has skills. I knew it. That's why this fight was so close." The topic of facing Canelo Alvarez came up before Bout's fight with Madrimov, and his trainer, Brian McIntyre, told Boxing Scene that they are searching for greatness and that he has to know he wants to get to the next level always after his victory over Madrimov. Crawford's post-fight interview echoed Alvarez's sentiments, emphasizing that to secure a bout with the Mexican fighter, a lucrative purse must be negotiated and agreed upon beforehand. "I'm going to go back to my family, relax, and enjoy this victory and all my accomplishments in the sport of boxing," Crawford said, but Israel Madrimov thinks Terence Crawford would have a very tough time going up to super middleweight to take on Saul Canelo Alvarez. The newly dethroned champion expressed satisfaction with his performance, noting that this was only his 11th professional bout. Madrimov said, "I felt good. I felt really good. I felt proud of myself." Like Eddie Hearn said, Crawford is really good. He's pound for pound best. He's one of the best in the world. He's not an easy fight. He knocked out the last 10 opponents he fought. Spence and others. He further added, "I didn't feel like it was my toughest fight. There were some questions about how I won my world championship belt in my previous fight, and I think in this fight, I proved why it was easy then, why I'm a champion, and why I deserve to be a champion. I feel go. I don't have any doubts about myself. Much of the attention leading up to and during fight week was on Crawford's possible promotion to confront Canelo Alvarez, the super middleweight champion, and according to Madrimov, the outcome will largely depend on the weight at which Crawford and Alvarez square off. Although Madrimov thinks Crawford is too small to match Alvarez at 168 pounds, he does concede that the former 135 pounds fighter possesses a strong punch. Madrimov added that if I had won the 11th and 12th rounds, maybe I could have won the fight or gotten the draw, but I did what I could. I followed my plan. I did a lot in the beginning of the fight as well. I tried to be aggressive. I tried to take the fight to him. I obviously exerted more energy, but maybe next time, with the experience I gained, I can do better in the future. Hearn assured the media that Madrimov would be invited to return for another Riyadh season event following his impressive performance. The OBC fighter has expressed his determination to either reclaim his former title or secure a new world championship. He said, "I want to try to take another title. It gives me a lot of motivation as well to try to take something from somebody. I want to take it back or win another title and see how it goes." Terence Crawford isn't discounting a possible highly anticipated super middleweight matchup with Canelo Alvarez. When pressed again about a fight with Canelo, Crawford added, "It's not so important to me. It's just another milestone towards greatness and financially wise." After 12 intense rounds of action, Crawford praised Madrimov's talents, saying that he was a tough nut to crack that night. He said, "Isra is a tough competitor. I knew he was going to be tough. I knew all about him when I went to Uzbekistan and they were telling me all about him. He's strong, he's durable, he took a lot of good shots and he got me in round 12. I figured it out from the get-go, but I was just patient and I didn't want to rush in with anything because that's how I got caught a couple of times by rushing and trying to eat too soon. I did my thing." As we cast our gaze towards the horizon, His Excellency Turki Alalshik disclosed that an invitation had been extended to Alvarez for a showdown with Crawford should negotiations falter. Virgil Ortiz Jr. stands ready as an alternative contender. He explained, "I have made Canelo a deal. If he's smart, he will accept it, but if he doesn't, I want Ortiz. If they accept, we want to see this fight." Madrimov thought he had demonstrated enough in the ring to deserve a rematch with Crawford. The 29-year-old, speaking through an interpreter, is excited to take on the American once more. After being pleased with his performance over the course of the 12 rounds, Madrimov said, "I fought the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. And I think I did enough because I'm a champion. I was protecting the belt. I was controlling the rhythm and felt very comfortable inside the ring. I felt I did very well. I felt that I at least earned a rematch, and if His Excellency Turki Alalshik can make it happen, then let's go." Reflecting on the fight with greater scrutiny, Madrimov noted that he had pinpointed specific areas for enhancement in case he met the American once more. He said, "I felt I was pretty much running everything. I made a couple of mistakes, but felt that I did enough in each round to control how the fight was going. I was holding myself back a lot too in the repeat. I can make a lot more. I know already what to do, and I can push harder." Terence Crawford's bout for the WBA super welterweight title versus Israel Madrimov was clouded by a greater prize. Crawford aimed to solidify his status as the undisputed top pound-for-pound boxer, preserve his unbeaten record, and capture a title in a fourth weight class. He achieved all these goals with a decisive unanimous decision victory on Saturday. None of that could rival the allure of a monumental clash with Canelo Alvarez, a showdown that could bring Crawford hundreds of millions and catapult his status in the sport to unprecedented heights. "Canelo, we are ready to fight in February." "Crawford is ready," said Turki Alalshik, the Saudi Arabian politician and financier who was behind the Crawford-Madrimov card. Had the financial resources to make the fight happen, but Crawford wasn't re-evaluating the fight's sporting value following an outcome against Madrimov that was closer than anticipated. Crawford had built an impressive record of 11 consecutive knockout victories, but that streak came to an end in his debut fight at 154 pounds. Madrimov not only matched Crawford's power, but also proved to be a shrewd strategist, turning the bout into a masterful tactical battle.
Israel just was a strong opponent, and we knew that coming in the gate.
Do you know, is Madrimov a harder puncher than Spence, you would say?
I don't know. They have their moments, Both of them is very strong, but Madrimov was strong. He was strong.
How unusual
was the movements, the constant feinting Madrimov did?
It wasn't like disrupting me or anything. It was his patience. He was just patient. He was just waiting. He'll feint, and just keep feinting until he get a little closer. So he was real patient in there. He wasn't rushing in with nothing. He wasn't winging those wild winging shots like we normally seen him in the previous fights. He was very disciplined.
It could be too much to ask to go up and wait to fight the bigger Alvarez, who will be defending his super middleweight belt against Edgar Berlanga in Las Vegas on September 14th. Crawford's trainer, Brian McIntyre, stated that in order to defeat Alvarez, his opponent would have to display remarkable athleticism. Get those legs in some shape, man. Because if you're going to move, you're going to have side-to-side movement with Canelo said these very concerns could be what draws Crawford to this matchup. The Omaha, Nebraska native has always defied conventional wisdom in boxing, often to his own disadvantage. Early in his career at 36, Crawford stands posed to become the focal point of the sport, while a showdown with Alvarez could solidify this status. Alalshik is also highlighting an equally captivating alternative bout between Crawford and the undefeated Virgil Ortiz Jr. at 150 pounds should Alvarez opt out. McIntyre alluded to a potential fight with WBC and WBO super welterweight champion Sebastian Fundora. Y'all know Crawford is almost done, so he's making proof of his legacy. McIntyre said, when asked about Crawford's next opponent for a boxer who often faded into the background compared to high-profile figures like Alvarez, Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao set up the event at BMO Stadium, complete with a pre-fight performance by rapper Eminem, which appeared meticulously crafted to elevate Crawford to their echelon. Hearn thinks that Madrimov, a 29-year-old USC, benefited from part of that celebrity during his energetic performance. We still would have preferred the win, but the stock of Israel Madrimov has risen around the world, and the future is very bright. Hearn said Crawford's next moves appear to be influenced by Alvarez's choice and his next fight. Crawford, having fulfilled his share, reveled in the instant. Crawford said, "We are here now. Everything happened for a reason. The cream always rises to the top, you know, and if you look around, I'm the last man standing, and I'm the one they were talking so bad about." Turki Alalshik is leveraging public pressure to persuade Canelo Alvarez to sign a fight agreement for the Riyadh season. The goal is to secure a high-stakes bout between Alvarez and Terence Crawford. An hour before Crawford stepped into the ring for the Madrimov fight, also delivered a verbal message to Canelo midway during the Crawford vs. Madrimov bout in Los Angeles. Alalshik had a brief 5-word message for one of the top 3 fighters by consensus. He said, if he's smart, he'll accept it.
Canelo, is there anybody in the camp that would say, you're not ready for this?
That's a big boy. He's strong. That's a conversation. It's not just, oh man, you will whoop his ass. Like
yes, man type stuff.
As the evening unfolded, it became clear that if Crawford is as shrewd as he appears, he'll back out of any existing agreements and stick to the super welterweight division. And despite a weight differential of 2 divisions, he has been demanding a fight that will define his legacy versus Alvarez. However, when questioned by the media, the Mexican claimed he hadn't received any such offer yet, though he mentioned he would consider it if the financial terms were appealing. Canelo said, "No, I don't have any offer. Look, I'm 100% focused on this fight, and then we'll see. Well, look, as I said, if the money is right, I'm willing." The showdown between Crawford and Alvarez, showcasing 2 of the globe's premier boxes, stands as the sport's most eagerly awaited clash. Despite Crawford's enthusiasm for the fight, Canelo has historically brushed off the notion, citing Crawford's lower weight class as a factor. However, the Mexican champ has hinted that he might rethink his stance if the financial rewards are significant. Enough a possibility that Alalshik is likely to explore. In an interview with DAZN Boxing, the Saudi royal said he gave Canelo an offer. However, he didn't take long to discuss their fallback strategy in the event that Alvarez refuses to engage in combat. If Canelo doesn't agree, the fight will be offered to Virgil Ortiz. Surprisingly, Ortiz's answer didn't take long for Alalshik to receive the golden boy. Star angrily said, "Alalshik put me in on X." There is no surprise in Ortiz's willingness to play Crawford. In January, he talked about the chance of fighting Crawford at 150. He said, "That's a really good fight. I have a lot of respect for him. I wouldn't say he's the top pound-for-pound guy. I think he's definitely in the top 2 and I would love to see what I could do against him." While the bout holds significant weight for Virgil Jr., it might not resonate as strongly with Crawford. Crawford has explicitly stated his desire to engage in high-stakes matches with prominent opponents. Despite Virgil Jr.'s flawless record, he might not yet possess the draw that Crawford seeks to prove his value to both fans and Crawford. Virgil Jr. will need to conquer top contenders such as Brian Mendoza and Jermall Charlo. Nonetheless, it appears that Alashik is placing his bet on Virgil Jr. The Saudi royal advisor was reported to be preparing a fight between knockout artists William Zappa and Shocker Stevenson. Although Stevenson was amenable to the match from the start, Oscar de la Hoya, Zappa's promoter, had different ideas for the fighter. Talking to the DAZN reporter, Alashik revealed, "I want to see Shocker versus Zappa. He accepted de la Hoya, accept Eddie, accept, let's do it." It's possible that de la Hoya had doubts about this matchup. Earlier he mentioned he wasn't that interested in doing this fight. However, once his company announced a deal with Turkey's Riyadh season on July 22nd, things appear to have shifted. Sergey Bohachuk and Ortiz Jr. will square off on Saturday, August 10th, at Michelob Ultra Arena at Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in Las Vegas as part of the same collaboration. Crawford vs. Ortiz Jr. and Stevenson vs. William Zapata seemed likely to materialize thanks to the collaboration with Oscar's GB Promotions. However, the prospect of a Canelo fight still hangs in the balance should it come to pass. Crawford's trainer is confident that Canelo could be facing serious trouble if the bout does come to pass. But Crawford's trainer, Brian McIntyre, has a message for Alvarez. Speaking on Fight Hype on July 23rd, he said Canelo has been in the game long enough to know what he's doing, but if Crawford faces him right after the Madrimov fight, Canelo might find himself in a bit of trouble. Crawford will be in his rhythm and groove, and that's a dangerous combination. Robert Garcia, the trainer for Ortiz, stated that although Ortiz must prioritize the Bohachuk fight, he believed that Crawford's fight was quite close. Maybe Crawford's performance was not good enough for people to expect him to do very well against Canelo, so maybe an Ortiz fight is a good idea. Garcia said Crawford has now put the pressure on Sebastian Fundora, the newly crowned WBC World Boxing Organization junior middleweight champion. The WBO has mandated that Fundora swiftly enter negotiations for a bout with Crawford or risk relinquishing his title to him. Those alternatives are clearly more advantageous than the idea of adding another 14 pounds and relying on someone like Alashik to splurge on a match that increasingly feels like a done deal. Crawford argued that Madrimov wasn't his most challenging opponent, pointing to his victories over Yuriorkis Gamboa, Jose Benavides Jr. and Edis Cavales as greater tests of his skills. McIntyre was more frank, admitting they'll see about remaining at 150 for that they will go back to the gym and try and figure it out.
Has the Canelo fight, realistically left your mind once he said he's not interested, or you still pursuing it?
Not at all. I think business talk. With the right business come across the table, happen. I just be talking, man. Canelo a big dude, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I believe in my abilities. He's a heavy dude, but he's not a big guy. Like, he's 5'8", I'm 5'8", you know what I mean? My arm's longer than his, so that fight would be